Welcome back, craftsmen, to the Third Degree Masonic Podcast, where we are always on the level. We're your hosts. I'm Brother Samuel.
I'm Brother Gabriel.
I'm Brother Ryan.
And we're just a bunch of Masons trying to figure out where we fit in this fraternity. Well, guys.
Life.
And life, yeah. I haven't quite figured that one out yet. So, guys, it has been a very, we'll say, eventful few weeks. Masonically.
Yeah.
I would say debatably probably a sprint. Not quite as much of a sprint as it was last year for you, Brother Gabriel.
It's a sprint in a different kind of way.
Yeah. For those of you craftsmen that don't know what we're talking about, we just survived our inspection.
Jesus, you make it sound like it's so bad.
It was pretty bad. Well,
No, it wasn't. We did great.
We did amazing.
Yeah.
I will say we did a lot better this year, but I think that's because of our worshipful master this year.
Yeah. It is
Last year he was kind of
It's
iffy.
nice. It's nice to have a really good worshipful master this year and not.
Love you, Gabe. Love you.
He's over here.
I wish this was a vlog so they could see how I'm looking at you right now, but
he's currently looking at us like we're insane. But anyway,
we're insufferable.
To be fair, though, maybe I have a different view of how our inspection went because I was the senior deacon.
Yeah.
Debatably, probably the biggest part other than the worshipful master. I've never done it before.
That's fair. And you did great.
And I
Someone
learned
having
it.
only done it the first time.
And I learned it 2 days before.
It is arguable that the senior deacon has the most lines in.
I would agree with you. It was a lot.
Yeah.
And I hadn't. I mean, from being in my position for what, a month, we haven't done one before our inspection. It was my first time. It was a baptism by fire, and I was pretty stressed out about it. But we kicked butt. Also, you have to introduce all the dignitaries for the 11th.
And it's a lot of people you just met for the very first time. Yeah. So you're like, what's your name again? I'm sorry. How do you pronounce that?
I have to say
it's like you're going through puberty all over again, and you're just in front of a giant open lodge with every seat filled, and you're like,
all the visitors that were here, and you're just like, they're just watching and waiting for you to screw up so they can go.
But the man of the hour, the honored guest, our candidate for our inspection in EA, we actually had a live EA candidate, and I think we were able to provide him a top class entered apprentice degree.
I agree.
Not only was it a great fellowship night with a dinner where he had dozens, probably 50 or 60 guys here at dinner with him. Maybe not quite that many, maybe like 30 or 40, but it was a lot of guys were here for dinner for the inspection.
As secretary, I had to count all the heads. We had a total of 45 people here.
That's not bad for visitors.
Not counting the candidate, obviously.
Yeah, so. that's not bad for dinner visitors on an inspection night for us. That's pretty good.
No, and I think you're right. I think we gave the candidate a very top tier degree.
Yeah.
And that's what the focus should always be, is giving tier to candidates.
I think what also kind of helps, or doesn't help, but it just kind of puts that cherry on top is, as you guys know, the brother now, he's gotten a little bit of history of brotherhood through his past leaders and stuff, but he doesn't have like, oh yeah, my dad was a Mason or my brother's a Mason. Right. So like, he's coming into this world brand spanking new.
Yeah.
Like just barely covering the surface is his first steps, and now we're showing him all this stuff, and I think he's thoroughly enjoying it.
And he wants to be on the podcast at some point. I think once he gets his Master Mason, because we're having his fellow craft tomorrow.
Right.
And
I know my part.
Yeah.
And then I think we're going to wait a little bit for the Master Mason degree, because we're going to need a study. For this guy who is probably one of the most promising candidates I've seen in a while. Not that I don't like our other candidates. Our other candidates are promising too. It's just he is so ready to embrace the brotherhood of the fraternity. I want to make sure Brother Cars Master Mason degree is as good as we can make it.
Well, and I think we can say his name.
Okay. I just want to make
They
sure.
passed that at Grand Lodge last year.
That was part of the
Okay,
Grand
I
Lodge.
remember them talking about it, but I don't remember the
We
outcome.
can now, through social media and podcasting, talk about our entered apprentices and fellowcrafts.
Sweet.
I can.
Sweet.
So,
It's sweet.
but yeah, we do look forward to having him on the show. I think he's got a really cool story to share, and
Yeah.
why he wants to be a part of this fraternity. And I'm going to let him tell his own story
Mhm.
when he's ready. But I'm really looking forward to him. I too have big things in mind for Brother Carr, and I think he's going to be
And
another
I think,
highly active member. He reminds me a lot of Christian. Brother
Yes.
DeLong. He was just
yes.
feet first in, ready to go, wants to get involved, and
But I will say, and I think we are doing it the right way, we're not rushing him into it. We're not going, oh, hey, nope, just next week we're doing your fellowcraft. The
This
following
was
week,
still
Master Mason.
a pretty quick
Yes.
turnaround, though, because I had, after the inspection, Brother Carr and I, we had
Because you trained
2
him
weeks.
and our other fellowcraft degree that we're giving tomorrow.
I'll give credit where credit is due. Brother Staylor did overwhelming majority of the work with Brother Wagner. I did
Okay.
some of it, but Brother Staylor did 75-85% of the legwork
Yeah.
with Brother Wagner. So,
Okay.
that's another fun one I think we'll have on the show.
oh yeah,
too.
especially because we've known him from our DeMolay years. So
Yeah.
we're excited to have him
So-
finally take the step.
Anyways, Craftsman, sorry we kind of went on a tangent there, but
Hey, that was A+ podcast stuff. For the listeners are like, yes, this is exactly what I wanted
this
to
is
listen
exactly
to.
what I tuned in for.
Another lodge's business meeting. So this is what I wanted to
Yeah.
listen to.
No, but it was definitely an exciting night, and I was really excited that we were able to put on. There's almost that extra feeling of anxiety for me because we had a live candidate,
Mm-hmm.
and because we were doing it for inspection, and because I wanted to. It's one thing you're doing the inspection, right? You're getting graded, they're making
Yep.
sure you're proficient. But if I screw something up or I don't know what I'm doing, I'm going to get chewed out. I've been chewed out before. I mean, that's sad. It makes me upset. But I get over that. It's happened to me before. It will happen in the future. Something happens. But what I can't stand and what gives me absolutely total anxiety and would kill me on the inside is if I gave this candidate a bad degree.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a bad degree because of me,
Because there's no unringing that bell.
There's
You
not.
can't be like, you know what, let's redo your entered apprentice. That very first step that he just took through, that's always going to be his first step. That's
Mhm.
always going to be
If
his
I
first
trip over every word I say, he's
Mhm.
just going to sit there and go,
that, or if you have the book right in front of you and you're just,
reading it.
what's this word? Okay, yep. And the candidate's just going to be like, Jesus Christ, do you know anything? Like, why am I joining
Why
this?
am I joining this?
Yeah.
Are you just going to read the book?
Yeah.
So, I'm going to pose a question then.
Sure.
We have a few candidates coming up.
Mhm.
So we'll have new Master Masons, and we've got 1 or 2 other entered apprentices as well.
Sure.
And you guys are taking active lodge leadership. Ryan, you're secretary, so you have a lot of skin in this game of the lodge.
Mhm.
Your brother Wilburn, you are going to be junior warden before long, and then before we know it, you'll be worshipful master.
Terrifying.
If so
there's-
elected.
If so elected,
Yeah.
yes. And so there's a lot of kinetic potential here. Like that, what do you want to do with these guys? We're going to kind of be back on our ebb flow a little bit, going up a little bit.
Sure.
So we've got some potential here. So what do you want to where do you want to start steering that effort and
So-
direction for the lodge?
For me, and I don't know about Ryan. I don't know if Ryan ever plans to jump in line. Obviously, you would never jump in line again and be, go start from the bottom. I would never ask anybody to do that, especially if you're being secretary. And you're probably going to be secretary for a long time.
Yeah, that's my goal.
Yeah, which is fine. But if you ever did want to be worshipful, I mean, you're still in leadership. You're debatably the right, senior warden's the right hand of the master. But it's not. It's the secretary. The secretary is right hand of the master.
Communication.
At communication, everything. I mean, if you don't have a good secretary, it's over. A good secretary makes or breaks your lodge.
Yep.
So I don't know if you would ever be worshipful, and it'd be interesting to sit down with you in a couple of years once you've had a few masters under your belt to see how much of an influence you try to put on them. I mean, you will be the fixture that stays.
Yeah.
Like, masters will come and go, but you will stay. And a new one will come in and they'll say, oh, I want to do this and do that. You're the voice that says, hey, I would go about this way.
Yeah.
Because I've seen others try this or do this and it's worked or hasn't worked. And if they're smart, they'll take what you're saying with a
pretty
grain of
much
salt.
I don't want to say earned, but I've gained the past master's knowledge without ever being a master.
Or at least you will.
Yes, because not to take it away from the past masters. They're all great, even the one sitting to my left, even though he's giving me a weird eye. Like Sam said, yes, you had your year in the East. I'm sitting there watching everyone take a stab at this giant thing we call life and saying, okay, this is the path I want to do. This is the path I want to do. And not saying you're going anywhere anytime soon, or I dear hope not, but I'll be able to know from the backside of, oh, hey, I got to reach out to Grand Lodge. I have to reach out to this lodge. And all that is, oh, hey, I really want to have this pancake dinner this Saturday. That's great. We cannot do it this Saturday because by the time I send stuff out, they're going to get the invites Sunday.
Yeah.
So let's try and do it another month. Your deadline's here. Or, hey, you know what? I really want to redo the fellowship room. Okay, this is what we've done in the past. These are the fundraisers we've done in the past. Let's try and do that. So that's where I'm kind of taking that. I'll have that past knowledge. Not saying, oh, I'm better than the past masters.
No. By
no means am I better than the past masters.
But you have to have your...
Thank you for stroking my past master ego.
You're welcome. I got to do it every so often.
You have to have... Your secretary handles all the things in the background that you don't think of. I mean, you had Mark.
Well, this just turns into the Appreciate the Secretaries podcast,
I don't
doesn't
I
it?
know. Like,
They don't
I thought we were
enough
talking
love.
about status of Genoa, and it's just status of Ryan on the secretary.
To also be fair, in our latest TikTok video, I did give Ryan a lot of grief, and I got a lot of crap from people telling me that's how you treat your secretary.
Listen, I will say, Sam did talk to me about that beforehand, and I was grudgingly accepting it because I was like, I got a lot to do right now, but sure, I'll take 30 seconds out of my day to entertain you just to make you happy.
We had a
Wow,
lot.
your cable toe is so long.
Yeah, it is.
I'm going to have to get that on a t-shirt.
That would be an amazing t-shirt to sell at Grand Lodge. Your cable toe is so long.
So anyway,
that's how we get kicked out
Yeah,
immediately.
this is how we get our podcast
So-
canceled.
Anyway, but for me, I have, let's say 3 years, maybe 4 if I hold back a year and wait for Right Worshipful Brother Symes a year if I want to be the master during his term. We're going to have to sit down as a lodge and talk about that and figure out who, if he is if he is so elected,
Mhm.
Who's going to be best for that job. That's not going to be a job that, oh, well, it's my turn, so I'm going to take a swing at it. That's got to be somebody that can handle the pressures of that because they're going to have a lot more responsibility than
There's going to be
master.
tons of stuff you're going to have to travel to. There's going to have to be tons of stuff, tons of dinners that we're going to go to.
Inspection night's not going to be the only night
Yeah.
where it's the hot seat.
Every
Yeah.
night's going to be an inspection night if
Yeah.
you're a master
And-
that year.
And the master, if you are the master that year, you will open Grand Lodge, which is a whole other responsibility in and
On
of
its own.
itself.
So there's a lot to think about, and there's a lot that we're going to have to sit down as a family and decide who is going to be best for that should the time come.
Mhm.
And we foresee it coming, but
And that's not electioneering or
no,
anything. That's,
he's so passionate and he cares so much about this fraternity. It radiates off of him, and anybody that doesn't see it that way, I couldn't understand it. I mean, he's Mr. Mason in this, at least in our lodge. So I respect that. But if it should happen, that's something we'll have to talk about.
Mhm.
But what I would like to see in the next 3 years is I would like us to come back to form of being a local lodge. I think what I would like to see us get back to is the close-knit family and the stories that we hear about from all the older guys about how good, all the things they used to do and all the, how close-knit everybody was. I'd like to see that again. I'd like to see us taking care of our own before we start worrying about anything else. I'd like to see us be a beacon in the community again. I've already got some events planned in my head that I have thought about us doing over the next couple of years, but I have to question on whether I'm going to do that or I'm going to wait until it's my year to implement them. I haven't decided yet.
So I'll pose another question. Do you think that the being partnered with the Genoa Chamber of Commerce has been working out?
100%.
Has been working good for us?
Mm-hmm.
And for those of you that don't know, your local Chamber of Commerce is essentially all of the local merchants, charities, churches, stuff like that. Usually they come together in an organization that is there to assist government, but, there's representatives on the chamber from like town council and from the building inspectors and all of this stuff. They come and give a report. They're not officers, and I don't think they're voting members, but they kind of have a voice to tell us how things go. But the chamber's there, we help other businesses. I think that's kind of the point of it, is to help other businesses, but it's there to do good for the town. So when we have a harvest festival and, the Chamber of Commerce is the one putting that on. So if we want to be involved in that and get a space in the community, that's how we got involved.
Yep.
They called me and said, hey, we have 500 hay bales that need to be set up so we can make a maze for these kids in the middle of the street, and we don't have the muscle for it. Brother Race and I showed up, and we helped unload all those hay bales.
Yeah.
I mean, the problem is they told us last minute we couldn't get as involved as we would have liked to, but I told them next year, I said, just give us plenty of notice. We'll have guys to help you, whatever you need,
I mean, we just donated some money to a charity that we've never heard of because they heard about us because of the Chamber of Commerce.
Yep.
And now I'm drafting a letter to this charity, not to try and stroke our back or ego or whatever, but just let them know pretty much the same thing.
It opened a door.
Yeah.
It opened a door.
This is what we are. This is how can we help without just giving you money? We want to volunteer ourselves. We want to make something with you. We want to help
be
you.
Masons in the community.
Yes.
We want to show what the lodge has for our community.
Because it's easy to take out your checkbook and just write $100, $1,000.
Yeah,
go, here you go. I sponsored you.
$3,500 our last meeting.
Yeah.
We're spending money like drunken sailors our last meeting.
This is true, but I think we're starting to head in the right direction.
I think so too. I think we're in the precipice of starting and getting things in the right direction. I just think it's going to take time. It's going to take an effort, and it's going to take directing our compasses in the direction that it needs to go.
Mm-hmm.
It needs to be a joint effort, and we all need to be on the same page of where we're going.
As my boss recently told me, because I had a little bit of a bad day at work, and I was talking to the president of my company because he stopped in. Me and another young guy are trying to upgrade our company because we love our company that much, but we're trying to do it way too fast. And He said, you can steer the boat. That's fine. You cannot make a 90-degree turn.
Correct.
It's going to take multiple years to turn around to even make that 90. You and this other person are going 1 degree left or 1 degree right, whichever way, and just keep hammering.
Yeah.
I know it's stressful. You remind me of myself 30 years ago when I was doing the same thing.
Yep.
So, and that's pretty much Lodge too, is you're not going to all of a sudden make a left turn.
Ryan, you'd be so happy you don't work in government. It is.
Oh, trust me.
It is so much like being a government employee with your same kind of mindset. It drives me crazy sometimes because in some of my other vocations, I was a government contractor, not a government employee. So if I needed something or something needed to be done a different way, I was a contractor, so I could just go do it.
Yeah.
I was told this is the job, get it done however you need to get it done.
Yep.
Being an actual government employee now, it's a little different, and things have been done certain ways they've been done for 25, 30, 40 years. So temperance is a great thing that we learn in this fraternity.
Yep.
It's a great thing to bring into our regular lives, as we've been having a lot of our most recent episodes talked about.
Well, and I think the things we learn in Lodge are not exclusive here. I mean, we can talk about all the benefits and tenets of a Mason and all the things that we're supposed to embody, but if we're not taking those out into our daily lives, there's no point.
I mean, we've kind of talked about that during one of our last episodes. How has Masonry made you a better man?
Right.
How have you taken what you've learned in Lodge into your real life?
And we're still working on that question. I mean, we've gotten a lot of really good answers in the last few episodes.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
And I think we're getting closer to finding the definitive answer. But I think we need to find maybe more of where the practical aspect of it is. So in your case, you're 100% right. Patience. It's going to take time. It is not something one master is going to fix, two masters are going to fix, three masters are going to fix. It's going to take a little bit here and a little bit here and a little bit here. And mostly just to answer your question, I have big plans for this lodge when I'm master. I might ruffle some feathers in doing it, but I think I'll have the support of the guys that I need to make them happen. And we're going to go back to doing Genoa Lodge for Genoa Lodge.
Mm-hmm.
And let the people whose jobs it is to handle district problems be the district problems. And if at that time I am, while a certain somebody is Grand Master, that will be his problem, to let him handle his problems, and we support everybody in tow. But I would like to see us more. My job as master is to focus on Genoa Lodge, if so elected. If I ever hit that chair, that's 100%. My focus has to be on us and our families and our candidates and our education. I can't worry about all the other problems that exist. I can only worry about the problems here in my lodge. So I'm looking forward to it. I'm drafting a plan. I know they tell you you're supposed to do it when you're junior warden. I'm already doing it.
That's
and
good.
Working on my calendar. It's just a question of when. That's why it's kind of hard to make a calendar.
Yeah.
But
Yep.
But to go back to things, I would like to pose a question to you guys. How do you feel? So we started off last year when we started this podcast. What do you think? How do you feel like we have grown as Masons? Do you feel like we've changed?
With just the podcast and Lodge, life,
all of
or
it. All of it.
Okay.
All of it. I mean, we started at a baseline. I think when we started out, I was just coming back to Lodge at that point, more or less. I think you were coming back more than I was. You had been an officer for a while.
Yeah, it's been a long time since I have not been an officer.
Yeah. It's a lot of change. That's why I said we've grown in a year. And also, I don't know if you guys know this or not, this will be technically our last episode of the year.
Is this our 1-year anniversary?
Our 1-year anniversary will be next month.
Wow.
Yep. So that will technically start season 2.
Where we are R-rated, right?
Yeah,
No.
right. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Coming soon to a streaming service near you is Genoa Lodge After Hours. A new extreme Masonic podcast.
Yeah.
But to go back to your question of how do you think we're doing, like I said, I think we're on the right track. I think we're growing. we are becoming that family. It's one step at a time. It's one knocking door at a time.
Yes.
And we're getting there. I mean, I was talking to my wife, and I have it on my phone right now. It's not done, but I have a presentation that I've been trying to work on for the last freaking 8 months of my life about building a successful lodge. I read a book for the Royal Schofield Society. It was
Remember that.
building a successful lodge. Took notes, did all I could, and I decided, you know what? I'm going to do a presentation on this and not just do a book report. Still haven't finished it because procrastination. That and left and right, running around. But I kind of thought about it during the end of our inspection because of what our inspecting officer said. And I'll quote him. It's inspiring for me, and hopefully it's inspiring for the other lodges of the district to see a lodge kind of come together and grow across generations. Genoa is in great shape as a small town lodge and is a true powerhouse for the district. He said that, and I could tell all the officers and members of Genoa Lodge kind of perked up and was like, holy cow, how did we do this? And I started thinking, like, how did all of a sudden Genoa become this powerhouse again? How did we get, like, not to try and pat us on the back or anything, but how did our inspection night, our entered apprentice, which we practiced a little bit, we didn't practice every single day for months, but we knocked that one out of the park. How did we all of a sudden do this? And it was A, the officers we had, and B, what the inspecting officer said is the young guys, us, are stepping up and we're willing to take on that charge, and we're all coming together as a family, and we're looking inwards and fixing ourselves before we're turning outwards and fixing others.
Oh, and I actually really like that, and it's funny that you say that because as we've often said on this show, you are the odd man out in a lot of ways because you came to the fraternity, I would say traditionally, young man found Freemasonry, asked to join.
Yep.
Whereas me and Gabe were both members of DMLA. We've known this fraternity since we were 12 years old. We started a little bit younger. I will tell you that feeling that you're talking about, that how did we knock this out of the park? How did we do this amazing ritual?
Brings back DMLA memories.
At 100%, because we were thicker in blood back then. I mean, we still are. There's a reason why we're all such good friends.
And the stories you guys have told me, all I can ever think about isn't just the story. It's, damn, I wish I knew you guys earlier, and I wish I would have been a part.
Do you remember going out to Van Wert all the time?
Yes.
And having to like read ritual stuff on the way to Van Wert, and
still knocking it out of the park. But the thing is when you have a connection with guys, okay? So having been a member of a couple of different lodges at this point, I'm not going to name names because I'm not trying to point anybody out. It was time and place, right?
Yep.
I was a member of a lodge where the officers, there was no connection. Okay. These were just guys. Yeah, they were members of the same lodge, were brothers, but everybody was kind of doing their own thing and part of different organizations and ran in different circles. And ritual was rough. There was no playing off of each other. There's no harmony. It's just like dancing or singing or whatever. There's a harmony to it. And part of it is, so let's take it, for instance, Brother Staylor and who was our other deacon or our steward that night for inspection? You?
Mm-hmm.
Like, we didn't sit down and practice that part. Brother Staylor has never been a steward.
Yeah.
But because I trust Brother Staylor being a steward, we did a pretty good job for our inspection.
Yep.
Doing a part he's never done before. And that's because we all are tight. We all know each other, we trust each other, and we know that if you don't know what you're doing, I got you. And that gives you a confidence that you, even if I make it up, or you stumble and you're like, hey, I need you to go that way. And you handle it.
Mm-hmm.
You handle how it needs to go. If you don't have that connection with your brothers,
If your brother is just a stranger that you see once a month or twice a month.
Well, it
can be rough.
takes it to that kind of like when you see guys from other lodges that you haven't seen in 8 months or a year, when you see them at Grand Lodge, like, yeah, they're still your brothers, they're still your friends.
Absolutely.
But when you do have that personable connection, I mean, these are guys that, I mean, let's take our friend group. We have been breaking bread together and sharing each other's lives for, it'll soon be 20 years.
Right.
It'll soon be 20 years that we have all been interconnected, and that's not something you can replicate.
No.
And as beautiful as our ritual is, as telling as instructing as our ritual is, it's not just something that can be created and crafted out of thin air. You have to have like personable connection with your brothers in your lodge, or even if you haven't known a brother for 10, 20 years, you still gotta call him and ask about his wife, like I do with Christian, because his wife's been under the weather. You still gotta go out to dinner with these guys before lodge. You still gotta just even play darts with these guys. You gotta learn a little bit about their humor, learn a little bit about their lives.
Well, and you're absolutely right. And part of it is, Masonry is not a spectator sport. One, if I'm going to give it an analogy, and Masonry is not a video game. Stick with me here. Video games, you sit down. Ryan, you are a million times better than me at Breath of the Wild. I've seen you play it.
Yeah.
I suck at Breath of the Wild. I am terrible. It took me 2 years to beat Breath of the Wild because I would get so frustrated playing this Zelda game. I'm like, why do people like playing this game?
Yeah.
But you can sit down and kick butt. It's the same thing with Smash Brothers, Halo, Call of Duty, whatever you want to call it. We'll even call it Doom for those of you that are listening that are old enough that to call us out on our video game episode about how old we are, or not old we are. But it doesn't matter because you're good at that game, right?
Mm-hmm.
But that doesn't equate to me being good at that game. So Masonry is a something that we have to do together.
Yeah.
I can be really good. I can know my part left,
You
right,
can't
front,
just
and
sit
center.
there and watch me and go, well, I'm good at being a Mason now because I watched Brother Turco or watched Brother Fawcett be a Mason. So I know all his tricks, so now I can
Well,
walk into
and it
shit.
doesn't matter if I know my part, if I knew my part for inspection, right?
Yeah.
I can know my part, and if you guys didn't know yours, we failed.
Yep.
So who cares that I knew my part? But most of all, most importantly, how bad does that look on the candidate? I know my part, but everybody else in the room absolutely blows it.
Yeah.
Who loses in that situation? The candidate.
Yep.
But because we have this close relationship with each other, I know that you guys all put in as much effort as I did for that night. And when we do a degree, we're all putting in our focus 100%, laser focus. I know that things are going to go okay.
Yeah.
I know we've got this
You have
candidate.
faith in your brother that's on the
Absolutely.
other side of the door that you have no communication with right now.
And I feel like I'm maybe, to go back to my own question, I feel like maybe that's what we're learning so far. We had last year. Last year was bumpy. There's a lot of stuff going on. We've talked about that. This year we're finding our groove. I
Yep.
mean, we as an officer line have worked together at this point. We're confident now. We're confident in each other's abilities.
If you can make it through my term in the East, you can make it through anything.
That's what we need to do, is just start shipping game to other lodges and be like, let him be Worshipful Master for a year. I guarantee you'll get better.
You'll look better.
Yeah.
Wow.
But
Wow.
I know we've said
That's
it
really
before,
mean.
but like,
That was really mean.
It was
I know.
brutal.
It's fine. I'll be nice to you later.
Oh.
But we've said it before, is the youth organizations are our future.
Right.
If we let Demolay, Rainbow, Jobs' daughter, Jobs,
Job.
sorry.
Steve Jobs' daughters.
Yeah, sorry, my bad. But all those youth groups go, Masonry is soon to fall. And I think that's where a few years ago when Brother Cashin was Worshipful Master, and he brought me back, he brought you in, he brought all of the, as we call it, the guys back into Lodge and said, guys, I really need some help this year. Like, just come help me out this year. Maybe help Gabe next year if you guys can.
And in the words of one of my favorite shows, Letterkenny, when a friend asks for help, you help them.
Yeah.
That's it.
And we all came back and we said, you know what, we'll give it a year. And since we all came back, I wasn't a part of it, but it was like DeMolay all over again for you guys. Oh, cool. I get to go hang out with my buddy at Lodge for 2 hours and talk beep. I'm censoring myself.
Wow.
And
you are growing so much.
I know.
Like,
Secretary
this is
rubbing
your
off on me.
character arc. This is your
I know.
character development.
I don't like it. But like we all learned to love each other again and love Lodge again. And then Gabe, you sat in the East, and we figured, screw it, Dustin's over. Let's keep going. And now
here we are.
Charlie's in the East, and we're like, yeah, we're still going. And each year, we're getting better and better and better and better. And that's where I think a lot of our history and a lot of our benefit to becoming a powerhouse is because of that. You guys brought the quote-unquote fuel from DeMolay, past memories, brothership. And Genoa Lodge didn't turn it away. Didn't say, oh, you guys are too young. You guys don't know what you're talking about. We went, you know what? Screw it. Let's give them a chance. Let's see where we go from this.
Well, I would even argue with you they went a step further and they went, great. You guys are finally ready to take over. Here's the keys.
Yep. Yeah.
Call us if you need anything. That's what it felt like, in a good way.
Yeah.
And they're like, hey, we trust you to handle this. And we have been.
I will say, though, I have noticed that they're like, oh, crap, we let them off the chain way too much.
Yeah.
Look at our bank accounts.
Look at our bank accounts.
We are spending money left
but
and right.
it's all in good,
Well, sometimes you got to
do.
spend money to make money. If we're going to get more candidates to pay dues to bring in revenue, we've got to spend the money to make the space
to have
up
them
to snuff. It's
all that vicious cycle we've talked about,
and not have carpet on the wall from the 70s.
That's molding.
Hey, I like our 70s carpet wall.
Listen, you can like it and take it home. It will eventually be gone.
He will, though.
You put a live, laugh, love clock up in our fellowship.
It does
wall.
not say
I don't want
any of those.
Children.
That was free.
Children.
I don't want to hear it.
Children.
Everyone else loves it. Grandpa.
Hey, I'm living up to my grumpy past master role.
Yeah, you already are.
So, here's my next question that I pose to you.
Yeah, let's listen to Gabe talk for once.
Worshipful. How do you feel going from, and we've talked about it in your episode, about how you felt during your year as master and how you were looking forward to kind of candidate mentorship, sitting in the sidelines, being that asset to the lodge in a non-direct way. I feel like you have started doing that.
Mm-hmm.
Are you enjoying how that is going?
So I would have to say that I am very much enjoying how that is going, because this is the candidate that I am working with right now. I don't want the lodge to lose him.
Mm-hmm.
And if that means I've got to put in a couple extra hours here and there and a couple extra times when I can remember that, like, if I have a minute at work and I haven't texted him in a couple of days, I'll check in with him, see how he's doing, because this guy is too valuable to lose. And I have been working with him. I have been getting him up to snuff. He has passed his EA return. We'll be doing his Fellowcraft degree, and then I'll be doing the same thing. We'll get him ready for his Fellowcraft return, and then eventually we'll do his Master Mason degree, and then we'll get his Master Mason return, and then he'll really be ready and happy and set, because he has aspirations of traveling to see the fraternity. He has aspirations of experiencing the brotherhood, of just absorbing it all. And
he travels for part of his job.
Occasionally, yeah. He doesn't travel too far, but he goes around a lot. He puts a lot
He's
of
got
miles
the
on his work
opportunity.
truck.
He's got the opportunity that a lot of us don't have to be able to just, hey, I'm here. Let me see if there's a lodge near me that's having a meeting.
Mm-hmm.
So that's pretty cool.
Yeah, he's looking forward to that kind of stuff, and
But you're enjoying it.
I am, because it allows me to do a service to the lodge, because no offense to you guys, but I don't like spreadsheets. I don't like secretary work. I don't like doing I like doing phone calls and talking with people.
You monster.
I know, how dare I? But no, I don't like, I like budgeting. Budgeting is nice, but it's the lodge, if I've learned one thing, it's that for too long I thought everything in the world, my job, the lodge, everything would collapse if I didn't put all the weight on my shoulders. And it's taken me years to realize that things will be okay.
Mm-hmm.
And I can just let people handle things. I can let things play out as they will. And I can do just what I want to do. Not that I'm not doing what the lodge would need. Of course, anything the lodge needs, I will do. But if I want to put in extra time to mentor a candidate, I can do that, because I don't need to worry about the budget. I don't need to worry about secretary events. I don't need to worry about going to a required officers meeting, because I'm not an officer.
Yep.
So I can go do what needs to be done for the candidate and what I fit in better as doing for the lodge.
You get to be flexible.
Yes. And that
Flexible in what you do to be of an assistance.
Mm-hmm.
One
And that
thing
is
I'm slowly reminding myself and learning is, it was there before you, is there right now with you. It will be there after you.
Hopefully.
Yeah. It sounds a little bit morbid, but it's, hey, before you were even alive, this was already happening. While you're alive, it's still happening. When you're dead, long gone, long forgotten, it'll still be happening.
Well, yeah, all you got to do is look at our past masters board, and you can see that. You can see the founding of Genoa Lodge in 18... Oh, I should know my lodge history. I am.
You made the board.
Right, I did. I made the board. I should know.
I'm taking your badge away from you. You are no longer a past master. You got to do the whole 7 years again.
He's thinking about jumping off the roof. But anyway, I'm happy to see that you are currently happy where you're at. You're enjoying it, and I'm going to keep checking in with you.
Life is sometimes going 1,000,000 miles an hour, but at least the lodge is kind of slowed down a little bit for me.
Brother Turco.
No.
Veto.
Secretary doesn't have veto power.
On a fun note, I just want you to say that somebody told me on TikTok the other day that what you should do is, if somebody gets on your nerves, you should write up their letter of expulsion and hand it to them mid-meeting. I said that is a power move.
I mean, I have asked our senior warden multiple times, is, hey, how do I do this? And he's like, I'll show you. And I'm like, maybe.
But how are things going with being secretary? Because we're done with our inspection.
Nope.
I know you were super stressed with all of the paperwork you had to do. People think, we've just spent the last 40 minutes talking about our inspection and, how good things went ritually. Nobody knows that inspection starts off way before that, and it's all in
months
pretty much
before that.
It's pretty much in the secretary's, ballpark.
I would venture to say the inspection starts the second the secretary gets installed as secretary.
Yeah, agreed.
And not just that inspection that year, next year's,
all of
the
them.
following years. Depending on how long you deem to sit in that chair, that's how many inspections you have going at that given time.
And not to mention, and what we're talking about here is the secretary has countless reports, membership reports, financial reports, audits. I mean, so
Stats
many.
of Charlie Murphy mustache report.
Correct.
Not doing so hot.
These all have to be turned in to
Yeah.
the district deputy to show that the lodge is functioning, that things are exactly where they need to be.
And one thing, talking about reports and stuff, and I didn't realize this, is now it is the duty of the LEO to keep his own tracker of what programs he did for the year.
Well, that's the other thing. No one understands that the education officer's job is a lot more than just standing up in a meeting and talking.
Yes.
His job is candidate education as well,
And
mostly.
a few reports
And
himself.
keeping his reports. So
But-
I did as my education, as
Mhm.
I was education officer multiple years, I kept track of my own.
Yes.
Um,
And that's how it's supposed to. But the secretary is also supposed to keep track of that in case the LEO does not
correct.
do his
It's
job.
a redundancy, but
Yes.
but part of it is, so in theory, you're going to put in your notes that Jim got up and talked about something.
Yep. I mean, during last meeting, I had to make note of, Sam talked about this.
Correct.
Jim talked about this.
Which is your job.
Yes.
But so then,
And then
in theory,
I have to remember those dates also.
at the end of the year, Jim's going to have to give a report to the district deputy
Yep.
of all the education, all the candidates, all of the degrees we did.
Yep.
But if he misses one, he's going to call you, and you're going to have to dig through your notes to find them.
Yep. And then
It's a redundancy, and it's a little bit crazy because you're kind of getting it twice, but I get where it comes from.
same thing with the treasurer.
Yep.
I have to keep my own report. It's a redundancy.
Yep.
So being secretary is a lot. I've talked about it before, and I'll talk about it again. You do not know until you sit as the secretary what they have to go through.
It's a lot.
All the reports, all the work they have to do behind the scenes. Secretaries, I will flat out say it, are the hardest working Masons, officers in the lodge.
I will 100% agree with you, because here's the other thing. As senior deacon, I go home tonight,
Mm-hmm.
my job's over.
Yep.
Right? I come in, I do my job tomorrow for our candidate. I go home, I'm done.
Yep.
You go home, you're transcribing notes from the night, from what we did before.
Yep.
If you're not doing it during the meeting. And then, you're sending out all the letters and you're sending out all the stuff. So is it more than you thought it was going to be when you signed on to it?
1,000%. Because I was naive and I saw it as, all I got to do is take meeting minute notes. Yeah, I can do that. That's simple. I can take notes. I'm an engineer. How hard can that be? And then I jumped into the deep end because that's all I saw. And I had weights around my feet. But luckily I had a lifeline. And they are the senior warden this year and the worshipful master.
Mhm.
And even our inspecting officer. I've had phone calls and text messages with all three of them. Hey, how do I do this? How do I do this? What am I supposed to be doing here? And they've set me up for success. And I've slowly been living by that. This has worked before I've been even alive. This will work after I'm long gone. And I'm just taking one day at a time. Now, no, every day I'm getting better and better. And I hope at the end of the year, when I have to prepare for next inspection and the inspecting officer goes, where's all your reports? And I hand them a binder and I go, here you go. Here's all of them. I hope it's spotless and it's super easy and we just get through it. And then we're back here again.
Hopefully, instead of 10 things you're missing, hopefully next year it's one thing and you're like, crap, I forgot to put that in.
Yeah. And hopefully it not taking 2 hours to do pre-inspection, it takes 2 minutes.
Yeah. And knowing you and knowing how you do things, it'll be very interesting to see how you handle that next year when you're fully in control. Because let's face it, this year you took on the job, and then it's that scene in every television show where he's like, "Oh yeah, how hard can the manual be?" And then they drop that huge manual on the desk, and dust flies up into the air. They're like, "Oh well, what do I have to have for this?" And they just went, boom, and dust flew up, and I looked into your eyes and went, yeah, this is going to suck, brother.
Yeah, and I could tell you all could tell I was way over my head because the night of pre-inspection, normally before we have the meeting, we're all hanging out, we're eating, and we're having a good time. I was with the inspecting officer, the senior warden. You guys were on the other side of the dining room like, yeah, we're not going to walk over there and ask him to print me off something or write something up. I'm just, nah, he's busy right now.
Well, and then I intentionally went out of my way to make sure I didn't bother you about anything for the podcast for a while because, Gabe and I were talking. He goes, oh, do you think Ryan's going to be here? I'm like, I didn't even tell Ryan about this. And I said, he's so underwater right now doing pre-inspection reports.
Let me put it this way. I'd rather, and you can attest to this because you're going through this right now, I'd rather plan 4 more weddings than go back through how I started as secretary. Like, it was just like, oh my God, there's so much.
And I would,
if you're not prepared for it like me, you're like, holy shit, what did I just get myself into? Because it's not even like, well, I can just stop coming to meetings. You can't. You have to be there. And you just accepted that position for at least a year. So you went, oh, I'm stuck in this for a year now.
You'll have to think of what sins did you commit in a past life that sentenced you to this purgatory.
But I will say, like you said, after inspection, after actually getting my feet wet and getting above water, I'm enjoying it. I'm enjoying sitting in the east, having my own desk, having my laptop open and typing notes and stuff. And I'm like, this is becoming routine. And
I hear you keyboard clacking away every meeting.
I'll tell you what I really enjoy is you took over that secretary's desk like a
champ.
Not like a champ. You took it over like somebody that just bought a tenant building and you just evicted everybody out of it. You put
new locks on it.
New locks on the desk, so nobody has keys to his desk except for I think I do because I need the key to get into
you and Mark because he's the assistant.
But so he just like evicted everybody. Fun fact, Ryan, did you know that the other bodies use that desk too? And they have secretary.
That is my desk. Not gonna lie. So why that transcribed was because I came in a few meetings and the desk was just destroyed. Looked like someone ransacked it, like they were looking for a pad of paper. No, it was just people were like, well, this is the secretary's duty, so I'll just throw it on his desk.
Correct.
And I'm like, where's the desk? And I was talking to Mark and he goes, yeah, that's normal. And I go, what? And they're like,
gonna stop.
By the way, look through your drawers. They may have taken something. You gotta make note of it and get it back. And I'm like, well, I'm getting locks. And he goes, go ahead, do it. And I was like, that was the okay I needed. Thanks. Amazon, 6 locks, cool, bought. And I'm slowly putting them in and stuff. And I know I gave Mark the key last meeting. He goes, what's this? And I go, the key to the desk. And he goes, I don't need this. And I was like, you're the assistant. And he goes, I need this.
But no, I laughed because I was like, you're putting locks on the desk? Damn. Yeah. Who hurt you?
Everyone that throws stuff on the secretary. I'm talking to you, listeners. If you do this, stop it. Just stop it.
Give your secretary as much work as possible. They're just trying to be like a union government laborer sitting around doing nothing. Anyone that sees
Gabe out in the public and smacks him, I'll give you $10.
You heard it here first, folks.
But no, go to your secretary before a meeting and just tell them, I appreciate everything you do. Because I guarantee you, they probably have not heard that in a while.
Or ever.
Yeah. So, but now you've asked Gabe as a past master, you've asked me as a secretary. And since I was just in your seat a few years ago, senior deacon, how do you like it? How do you not like it? What do you wish was different?
I truly enjoy. So, fun fact, I have been an officer for a long time in multiple different lodges. Mm-hmm. I have never gotten farther than junior deacon.
Okay.
I bounced between being lodge education officer, junior deacon, lodge education officer, junior deacon. I never moved up to senior deacon. This is the first time I've ever done it, ever sat in that spot. Luckily, I have some experience from DMLA. It has an officer that's very similar that introduces people and deals with candidates and all that. So I knew what I was doing. So introductions was pretty on the nose. Yeah. I mean,
as soon as you found out who was who and they didn't switch around or last minute addition.
I had to thank Right Worshipful Brother Williams for having all of the cards for all of the officers.
Yes, he is great at that.
He was on point. I told him, I was like, I was like, I love you. I can kiss you in the mouth. He goes, I'd rather you didn't.
In open.
Open lodge. I told him when the night of it, I said, if anybody wants to be introduced, they better have a card, because if they don't, I will make up their titles. Watch me. He laughed.
I will make up their titles.
I will make up their titles.
Here's
I looked
guy
like,
number 1 in a suit.
No, I will be like,
something.
I will be like, this is the left imperial wolf of the Roman legion. I'll make it up. I don't care. I've done it. For those of you that know Ted Korn from Phoenix Lodge, I used to introduce him under a different title that didn't exist every single meeting in DMLA. And I will do it again. I have no problem doing it. You know, they're like, you might ruin your chances of ever being something down the line. I'm like, well, then I would have to want to be something down the line.
I will say you have taken this with stride.
I'm still telling you, you're going to be Grandmaster in 2042.
Oh, never happening. But anyway, no, I really like that. I really like the fact that Senior Deacon is... I think I like the fact that I'm doing things.
Yeah.
I feel involved in the lodge. I feel involved in doing the degree work for Brother Carr. I feel, I am the right hand of the master doing activities.
You're the master's messenger.
I'm the messenger. Yep. I am, was it Hermes? The messenger of the gods?
Yes.
Hermes?
Yeah. I was like, where are you going with this?
Yeah, Hermes, the messenger of the gods.
You went Greek.
I'm
Gotcha.
flying around, doing whatever I gotta do.
I just imagine him as a pudgy little sheriff. His little
Chink.
twins.
So then let me ask you this. How do you like being the first interaction with the candidate?
I love that.
How do you like being the leader for the candidate?
I take candidate retention, candidate education, and I take candidate degree work very seriously. You will catch me screwing around on this podcast. You will catch me screwing around in an open lodge and making jokes. I do not screw around during degree work.
Yep.
I never have, and I never will. It is not the time or the place. So I really enjoy the fact that I am the guide.
Yep.
I am the wise monkey from the Lion King, carrying the staff and tapping them on the head and going, see. I enjoy that.
You are the very first face
I'm the first hand that touches them that's guiding them.
The very first voice they actually hear into a lodge.
Yeah. And I like that part. I am really excited to do all of the rest of these degrees.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like so far Senior Deacon has been a lot of fun. I'm taking it with stride. However, here's the terrifying part. This is the first time it's felt real that I could be the master in a few years.
Yep.
If so elected.
Yep.
And that is terrifying to me because it's finally like a reality.
Yep.
It's finally sinking in, like, you should probably start taking this seriously.
I'm going to call you worshipful brother Samuel Wilburn. Every time I see you, I'm going to kiss your ring. I'm going to kneel before you in the east, and I'm going to kiss your ring, and
Jesus,
I'm going to polish your shoes.
I love it. I love it.
But I will say, if I could go back and be any position again, it would be Senior Deacon.
It's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
I feel like
it was scary at first. It was like, oh, I got to talk to people? No, I don't want to do that. I just want to sit on the sidelines.
You know who?
So, according to the ritual,
mm-hmm.
the Senior Deacon is actually the one who's supposed to do the lecture
mm-hmm.
for the Fellowcraft degree. If you want to actually do the Senior Deacon part, you have the largest part in the ritual.
Yeah, that's where I was saying. You have the most speaking parts.
Yeah.
Not in every degree, but you pretty much are right there.
You are the star of the Fellowcraft degree if you're going to
Yes.
do it the right way as the Senior Deacon. And
Yep.
that's something I would never be able to
It's a dream to work up to. But the other thing that I'm really enjoying with Senior Deacon is the fact that it feels like I am actively doing something
mm-hmm.
at all times. Like the rest of the officers I've been, I feel like I kind of sit there, I do something, and I sit there.
Yep.
And it's made me think about it. You know who would make a really good Senior Deacon, even though he would disagree with me, is Jack. He's been on this show and said, don't give me a part where I have to speak. Don't give me this. Don't give me that, because he's got such bad ADD.
He is.
I think if he had the ability, if he was walking around and doing everything.
Once he actually understood, like, oh, I get to guide this guy. I get to talk to people. And, like, he would be, you're right, he would be a star. He would take it wholeheartedly, and he would be probably the best senior deacon.
But here's the other thing. So this will be what? Year 3 that I've been back.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
I feel like this is the first time I am not a very trusting person by nature. I'm not exactly the most open, and I'm also rather prickly. And Gabe's given me the I'm shocked look.
I'm shocked. I say shocked.
Shocked. But I feel like this is the first year where I feel like, so for instance, we had all those guests that show up.
Yep.
And if you look back, Brother Chad Kopinski and Most Worshipful Brother Carter have a podcast episode that they just came out through the Lodge of Education, where they talk about, part of the discussion is what is Masonry? Is Masonry is it a this? Is it a that? And one of the things that they came up with was, is Masonry a ticket to ride? And part of what you got to understand for that is does that mean because you're a Mason, that is what opens the gate for me to be your friend? For me, and I actually reached out to Brother Kopinski and said, for me, that is what Masonry is. So I am a rather prickly, untrusting, feel like not everybody's out to get me, but I keep people at a distance for a reason. It takes time. If you're a Mason, some of those walls come down immediately. The feeling of, is this guy going to screw me over? Is this guy going to stab me in the back? Is he going to put a beer bottle over the back of my head? That goes away immediately. You have an in. But even then, I'm not always the best at being the most friendly guy. I'm not the guy coming up to you, oh, welcome to our lodge, brother. Welcome. Happy to Samuel Wilburn, Genoa Lodge number 433, blah, 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 blah.
That's what you have me for.
That's what I have Gabriel for.
Not going to lie. And you'll start picking up on this. I mean, I did it here right before we started this. As soon as I see someone that is not in my inner group, I go, well, I'm going to go in the other room and work on something else. And you'll notice it in inspection night. I wasn't like, oh, let me go be social. I was like, I'm going to go to my desk, my safe.
And when in inspection night, you saw me going around shaking everybody's hands. It's like, oh my God, this guy's here. Oh my God, this guy's here. I got to shake his hand. I got to shake his hand.
But it's as time goes on and I spend more time with people, that goes away.
Mm-hmm.
So, there's a bunch of strangers in my lodge, and if they come over and shake my hand,
stranger in my lodge.
Copyright.
But like if this guy comes up to me and says, "Oh, I'm Jim Bob from Oak Harbor," and I've never met him before, yep. I'm not like, "Don't look at me, don't touch me." I'm like, "Oh, welcome, brother. I'm Brother Samuel. Glad to see you." I don't make the first approach.
Yeah.
I'm usually like walking through the dining room. Nobody look at me. Don't look at me. Don't look at me. But
whereas I'll beeline across somebody in the wild if I see a square and compass ring or a hat or something.
And actually in the wild, it's a little different. But even still, I don't know. It's really hard to explain. Even in the wild, like if somebody sees my ring and we go back and forth, I'm not like, oh, I'm from Genoa Lodge number 433. Where I'm like, is there anything I can do for you?
Yeah.
I'm still very nice, but I'll be like, oh yeah, I'm from Genoa Lodge 433. And they'll say, oh, I'm from this. I'm like, oh, very cool. Shake their hand. That's it.
Yep.
But I know that if I need something, I know I can look over at that guy and say, hey man, I need your help. That's all it is for me. It's a ticket to ride. We are brothers. We are on the same level to me. And then where that goes forward is all dependent. So I'll give you an example of when you and I were drilling holes in the wall, and Isaac Demarest showed up.
Oh,
and I was so happy. I've not seen Brother Demarest in, I don't know, probably 2 or 3 years. But I walked over to him like I just saw him yesterday, gave him a big hug. Like, love that guy.
Yep. And
love
he's
that
awesome.
guy. He's an awesome guy. But I've gotten to know him.
Yeah.
We've done things together. We are close in a similar way that we are all close. It's all being a Mason to me is it gets you in the door.
Yeah.
At least emotionally for me. I'm learning though, and this is where I'm going with this, is I'm learning as we go to be a little bit more open, to be a little bit less guarded, to not be so prickly.
As one person once said to you, questionable if he was great or not, you should start a podcast.
You should start a podcast. And I think
that's the single
too.
greatest thing I've ever said to you is you should start a podcast.
You should start a podcast.
I would like for you to answer that with how you answered that night.
Yeah, middle finger. I'm having a blast with this podcast, so he's right. I got to give him his due. But so, for instance, when we were at Grand Lodge for annual communication, I was not very good about talking to our guests as they came up to our table. I'm not good at that. That's why I was really happy you were there, Brother Gabe. I was so happy because you could talk to these people all day. But what I'm good at is sitting down with somebody and getting to know them as a person one-on-one, skipping past the surface level and moving into the deep stuff. So as I sat down I've never met Brother Hunt, the state master counselor from DMLA ever. But once we got to talking with him, it's great. It's no problem. I have no problem talking to these people once I have them one-on-one. It's in this big group setting where I'm like, oh, I don't know.
Where I could just talk to three brothers at
same
once.
Time. And I'm getting better about it. It's something I need to learn to be a little less guarded with my heart and my brain, and I need to just relax. Mm-hmm. And it's not something that's going to go away easily. And we're working on it.
And it's so weird that me being such a high-strung person and like such an anxious, guarded person, I'm so good with talking to people. But it's just something I just always feel genuine talking with people. I always feel happy engaging with people on a positive note. I don't like heated debates. I don't like heated controversial topics. But when I'm just talking to people, I could talk to 8 people at once about how their day's going, about
right.
how'd the game go, stuff like that.
Whereas me, on the other hand, I have no problem with confrontation, and I am happy to pull things out onto the carpet and deal with them right now. So it's just a difference in opinion. And the more I'm around this fraternity and the more we visit and the more we talk to brothers and the more we have listeners like you reaching out and telling us how much they're enjoying our content, the more the fraternity stops being an ideology to me and starts being more of a real life situation. But overall, Craftsman, I want to thank you for joining us on this one. I just wanted to touch base and see where are we growing as Masons. I mean, we started this podcast to learn something, to learn
kind of
things,
like a self-aware.
Yeah. Let's see where we're how are we growing? How are we changing? Because we are not the same men we were a year ago.
Yep.
And even the year before that. I mean, it's going to be interesting to see how we grow with this podcast as we grow as Masons. And
yep.
That's the exciting part of figuring out where we fit into this fraternity.
And I think that's a great, great sentiment to have, Brother Wilburn. Craftsman, thank you for tuning in to the Third Degree Masonic Podcast, as always. We really appreciate you being with us on this little roundtable discussion, little fireside chat, little characterizing and cataloging our growth as Masons and individuals. Craftsman, as we've been talking about recently, if you go into the description or notes of your episode that you're listening to, you'll find a link to a survey about the Third Degree Masonic Podcast. If you can find it within the length of your cable tow, we would really appreciate you filling out this survey. We have sections for comments, as well as answering questions about how our content is being received, and if you have any suggestions of type of content you'd like to see in the future.
And thank you to those of you that have taken the survey. I just want you to know that your criticisms are being taken very seriously, and we will be having a meeting starting with Season 2 next year. We'll be making some changes.
And just to piggyback off of that, we really do appreciate the constructive criticism because We want to provide the type of content that you, craftsmen, the listeners, want to have. But we can't do that without some responses. So if you can find it within the length of your cable tow, we would really appreciate it.
And remember, craftsmen,
keep your working tools in order.
And always be on the level.
The views and opinions expressed on this podcast do not reflect those of the Grand Lodge of Ohio, its officers, or any of its jurisdictions. They only reflect those of the hosts or guests.